Hi, I'm Andreas Estadius. I'm an architect with the data science team at TIBCO. I'm going to talk about the Spotfire Team Studio data function, a crucial piece of functionality to use when building an analysis application in Spotfire, powered by a Team Studio workflow. With the help of a minimalistic Team Studio workflow and a Spotfire analysis, I will show you the mechanics of how to set up Spotfire Team Studio data function to execute a Team Studio workflow from Spotfire, as well as read the results data from the Team Studio workflow operators into Spotfire. Let's start with the workflow. Here I have a simple workflow with a CSV file as a data source and 3 operators that we will read the outputs from: the random forest classification operator, the goodness of fit operator, and the summary statistics operator that will be exported to Spotfire binary data format file in the workspace and then subsequently downloaded into the Spotfire analysis application. This workflow also takes a workflow parameter as an input, entry. The entry parameter will be used by the random forest classification operator to specify the number of trees to be used in the classification operations. The Spotfire analysis file has already been set up with a text area containing an input control to allow the user to specify the number of trees to be sent as the entry to your workflow, as well as an action control that, when pressed, will execute the Team Studio data function. Let's go ahead and do that. When I press the execute button, we see that the Team Studio data function starter has kicked off the workflow and now starts polling for results. When the workflow has finished running in Team Studio, Spotfire will proceed to download the SPDF file into the summary statistics table, as well as read the direct results from the output tab of goodness of fit and the variable importance tab from the random forest operator. Now I will proceed to show you how to set up the data function in Spotfire. After having installed the Spotfire Team Studio data function extension into Spotfire, it will be available from the Team Studio data function menu in the tools menu. And here you have the options to either create a new Team Studio data function instance or edit an existing Team Studio data function. In order to show you how to set up this data function for this demo, I will choose to create a new Team Studio data function. First, I will need to log in to my Team Studio server location and my login credentials. Once logged in, I will proceed to choose my workspace, as well as the workflow. Here I will continue to specify the input to the workflow, the entry variable as an integer. This is the workflow parameter that we will be sending from Spotfire when we start the Team Studio workflow. In the result function parameters, I will add first the random forest classification operator. So here I specify first the random classification operator name, followed by type sign, and the name of the tab from which I intend to read the direct output, the variable importance tab. And I add a description to this. Type of the output is table, so I change that. I continue to add the goodness of fit operator, type sign output for the output tab, and I add a description to this parameter. And this is also a table. Next, I proceed to add the summary statistics.sbdf. It's important here to specify the file name followed by the SBDF file extension to let Spotfire know that we intend to download an SBDF file from the workspace. And I choose to use this as a table in Spotfire and add a description to that. Now I've defined the workspace, the workflow, the initiating function parameters. I've told Spotfire where to store the process ID of the executing workflow and what outputs to read into Spotfire. The success variable is an automatic variable that will tell anyone when the workflow executed successfully the last time. And with this value change, you can tie this either to script executions in other parts of your Spotfire application, or if you have external tables that read data from somewhere else other than the data function itself in the analysis file that needs to be refreshed when the data function has finished executing, you can add them here, but we have no such tables in this particular example, so I click OK. Now I need to tell Spotfire where to get the entry value. So I get it from a document property, the entries document property that we specify up here. For outputs, I need to put the process ID of the executing workflow into the process ID document property. Also, I need to tell the result reading part of the data function to read the process ID from the process ID document property. And finally, I need to specify where to put the outputs. So I start with the success variable to the success document property, the random forest classification into a data table, the goodness of fit also into a data table, the summary statistics also to data table. And when I click OK here, Spotfire will execute the data function, which will start the workflow in Team Studio and subsequently start polling Team Studio for the workflow results. For further information on the details of the Spotfire Team Studio data function, please refer to the TIBCO website and the TIBCO community. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.